Welcome to TKTV, and thank you once again for being a part of it, and thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. Please don't forget to subscribe. So, what we are focusing on today is maybe in a form of a question. Have you ever wondered what Prodly SA does, what their mandate is, and what they do for entrepreneurs in the country, that is our country, South Africa? And if you didn't know, they do quite a lot. And that's exactly what we're exploring with Prodly SA CEO, that is Eustice Masimbye. Mr. Masimbye, thank you so much, sir, for your time. Maybe let's start off with Prodly SA. If you were to explain it to somebody who's watching this interview, who's from Tembisa, who's from Soweto, who's from Wamashu, Lekhabile, how would you explain what you guys are all about in a manner that will make them really get a sense of what's your, what is your territory with regards to your mandate?
No, thank you, TK. And so, Prodly South African is a buy local campaign, and what we have been established to do is to ensure that where people make purchasing decisions, they make these decisions in favor of products made in South Africa. And the biggest reason why this was done was to try and recapture a share of the market that has been lost to imports, whether legal or illegal imports, but most importantly, to ensure that the support derived by the companies that produce those products, results in them retaining the jobs that they have created, and as a result of increased demand, it positions them to be able to create new job opportunities for the huge number of unemployed people in this country. And that is why Prodly South African exists. And so we focus a lot of our efforts on ensuring that we create access to market platforms and opportunities for locally made products to be able to compete favorably within the markets in which.
So is there a distinction? If I walk into a retail store, I mean, is there a way of distinguishing that this is a proudly South African product, or does it necessarily depend on the brand owner? If I've got a clothing brand, for instance, to what extent are you assisting me in terms of saying to the consumer, this is a locally produced product?
When Prodly South African was formed, a decision was taken to create a logo, and I think people are familiar with the Prodly South African logo, and it's made up of the colors of the flag, of the national flag of the Republic of South Africa, instantly telling the consumer that the product you're about to buy is made in South Africa, and then the tick in that logo tells you that it's a high quality product. And so what we encourage our members or the companies that affiliate with us to do is to ensure that they place the logo on all of their products. All of the qualifying products that we vet are allowed to carry the logo. And to go back to your example of a clothing and textile item, it can even be a swinging tag. Remember, every single product by law has to carry a country of origin label, which instantly tells the consumer where the product comes from. So in our instances, we asked our members to use the logo so that consumers can easily identify products that have been vetted by us and that are made in South Africa.
Yeah. But doesn't it make it difficult, though, for other products? I mean, just as an example, top of my head, an ointment. I know in the beauty industry, you have a lot of black women who are producing hair products, for instance, that are on the shelves of big brands like Clicks and all of that. So I'm trying to see if there is a real connection between what you do and the awareness from a consumer point of view.
We're the first people to admit that from an awareness perspective, there's a lot of work still to be done. We are constantly talking to government and the private sector because we generate our funding for both the public and the private sector. And the conversations with them are really to say, this remains a largely underfunded mandate that has been given to Prodly South African because you're trying to change mindsets. And to change mindsets, you have to be in people's faces, on their timelines, and wherever they're consuming any form of media at all times, because it's a message that they must hear, repetitively. And so, whilst we try and do what we can with the limited resources we have at our disposal, we know that the likes of Clicks, if I was to use your example, have up to 80% local content. And we know this because we work with them. ShopRite has up to 87%, 87 between 87 and 97% at any given time of what they sell in those stores is made in South Africa. And the bulk of those products, even those who are not affiliated with us, have a made in South Africa label. So it's quite clear. I'll give you a classical example of a black-owned brand, because when we started, we spoke about what about an entrepreneur in Tembisa, etc. So an entrepreneur who comes from a black background, Portia M, who has been able to grow whilst being part of Prodly SA. And when she joined, she was an SMME with turnover less than 5 million rands. So she was at the entry level. Now she's at the top tier, competing with large corporates. And we've walked this journey with her, with Clicks being the main retailer that gave her shelf space. Obviously, others have caught on, and they've also given her shelf space, but she has always had the Prodly SA logo on all of her products. So we know that consumers have found it easy to identify the products that she makes as products that are made in South Africa by one of theirs, because she also has her face on the product. So it's that advantage that we know comes with having the Prodly SA logo on your product, especially when those who are meant to buy it understand and have come across our message in one or another form.
Yeah. So let's speak to a business person who is watching this conversation, because, I mean, if you go to different towns, even different townships, you would find that, for instance, there would be a group of young black people, right? Which is what I saw recently somewhere in Johannesburg. They are producing nappies, disposable nappies, right? So they've booked a space in some factory environment, but they go to clinics, to sell to mothers of newborn babies who are bringing kids to the clinic and all of that. Somebody like that who wants to be associated with Proudly South Africa with the hope of expanding their reach with regards to their product. Tell us how that works as a start. People who want to take advantage of your organization in order for you to even expose them to other channels.
Tabi, so those are the companies we love the most. I mean, in the 10 years that I've been in this job, I can tell you that is the most fulfilling part about this job, is we've been able to help companies like that. Because, I mean, the big guys who affiliate with us, the Unilevers of this world, the Elovos, and other big brands that affiliate with us, have big marketing budgets. And so the reliance on us is not as big as with guys like that who really use us as an extension of their businesses from a marketing and business development and sales perspective. And that's how we've positioned Prodly SA. We create access to market platforms. We have an online store, as an example. It's called Shop Proudly SA. It is meant to rival or assist. Maybe rival is not the right word, but other platforms in the country. I mean, anyone sitting anywhere in the world who wants to buy a product made in China without cracking their heads knows if you go to Alibaba, you'll find the stuff made in China. And so the intention is that over the medium to long term, that should be the go-to platform for anyone wanting to buy a product made in South Africa. We have even engaged the DTIC, who gave us the money to build the platform, to say they must do the export development and export promotion work, because we don't have that mandate. We have a domestic mandate, but that the platform will be used for export purposes. So on a domestic front, companies like that, once they've gone through our vetting process, which I'll unpack shortly, are able to then pay the membership fee. I mean, for startups like the one you're describing, it's 500 rands per annum. So it's not expensive. It's 500 rands per annum. Every 12 months, when you do for renewal, you go through the vetting process again, so we can satisfy ourselves that you still comply with the criteria. And then we list you on a platform like that at no cost. And for those with products that are not necessarily consumer facing, like the one you described, we're targeting businesses. We have built the store such that it even has B2B capability. So outside of me and you as consumers being able to go onto the platform, order what we want, get it delivered to your home or wherever you want it to be delivered, as a business, we are able to go in and place bulk orders, and we get it delivered. So we have fulfillment partners who have helped us to be able to fulfill those kind of orders. We also have a non-transactional portal, Tabiso, for business to business purposes. People who want to do business with government know that you go onto the CSD, you register yourself, and then people in government, when they want to buy, they can find you. But in the private sector, there was no equivalent, and so of that nature. So the portal that we've created, known as Market Access Platform, does that for the private sector. We have a lot of commitments. We have commitments ranging between 3 to 4 billion rands that we've been able to collect from the private sector. Where the private sector have said to us, these are items that we buy as a corporate entity. We want to find suppliers in the country who are Black owned, youth owned, disability owned, whatever criteria they are following to choose their suppliers, because they have those procurement goals. And so they use that platform for that purpose. Let's say it's a privately owned clinic that needs that kind of product. They go onto the platform as the buyer or the supply chain person of the clinic. They do a search to say, I want a Black-owned, youth-owned business that supplies this product. It gives them the details. They place the order. In fact, what the private sector has been able to do with this platform is they've been able to place tenders. But the tenders are only seen by companies that are registered on there because they've been vetted by us. So that way, that you won't have opportunistic importers accessing those tenders and bidding for them and winning them. So that is what we've done for companies who have either consumer-facing products or business-targeted products, and that is the real benefit of being a member of Prodly SA. And then there are many other things that we do for companies like that. We'll take them to sector-specific expos. We have a Buy Local Summit and Expo happening on the 16th and 17th of March. There's a matchmaking program. So a company like that will tell us that we want a stand at the Buy Local Summit and Expo. We'll put them in the section that showcases pharmaceuticals and medical devices and related products and health products, and then we will send buyers to that section. But even ahead of time, we set up meetings for them. So each exhibitor gives us a list of 6 companies that they're ideally targeting where they can access them. We then, as Prodly SA, can go and say, here's an SMME that wants to engage with you. You know that there's a trust deficit between big business and small businesses, but these ones, you can trust them. We've vetted them. They will deliver on time. You can even rate them afterwards, and that rating lives on the Market Access Platform. So there are many other ways in which we support small businesses.
Sounds fantastic. Let's get into the vetting process, because I think that is key. That's the gateway to your association with businesses out there.
The first thing that we look at, like I said, the logo is made up of the colors of the flag. So is to check whether the product is indeed made in South Africa. So that local content element is very critical, in that we check whether in the course of producing the product, and there's also services, by the way. I keep talking about products, and the services guys might want to know.
I was just about to go there.
For or not. Yeah. So for products, we check whether the raw materials or components utilized to produce that product are sourced in South Africa. There are instances where those raw materials don't exist in the country; they are not available, or the pricing is out of range for local manufacturers. So in that instance, we say you can bring them in, but the value addition of converting those raw materials into the final product must happen within the borders of South Africa. And we want to see that jobs are being created, that the value chains are entrenched as much as possible within South Africa, so that jobs are created, not only in the manufacturer's business, but in other businesses that are part of those value chains. So that's the first thing we check. If you are rendering a service, the local content check is to say, are you utilizing any consumables or equipment or machinery to render that service? And where is it coming from? You must source it as best as possible in South Africa. And that way you tick the local content box. The second thing we check is, does it comply with the quality standards of that industry? If it's a service business, let's pick one, tourism. If it's a tourism business and there must be grading done, is the establishment graded? Is the restaurant graded? Is the B&B or lodge graded? Because we also have those. And then if it's a product, does it comply with the health and safety and other, ISO standards that are required for that product or for producing that specific product? That is the most critical thing outside of the local content check. And then the last two are softer issues but are important, TK. Companies who affiliate with us have to treat their workers fairly. And the benchmark is really, are you complying with the labor legislation of the country? The Basic Conditions of Employment Act of the country prescribes a few things. We want our companies to comply with that. And then outside of that, we have a commitment made to contributing to reducing the carbon footprint. So companies that affiliate with us make certain commitments. Are you disposing of waste responsibly? Do you reuse or recycle where possible? And just deploy some sound environmental practices in the course
Yeah,
of producing your
yeah,
product.
yeah. I think your vetting process is quite important because um, I mean, some of us have got an issue, particularly with black business, and I'm speaking from my own experience as well. And one of the biggest things is unreliability. People who overpromise and they don't deliver, and then they come up with excuses, and then you end up walking away and thinking, you know what, I'd rather deal with white businesses because they have the experience, they've been at it for the longest time. You try and support our black brothers, it becomes a problem. I mean, I'll give you an example about my own personal example. I go to a carpenter whose display looks absolutely beautiful. I walk into the shop and I'm like, hey guys, I like what you guys have displayed here. Can you do a a cupboard for me? So I wanted a cupboard for my kids, young boys, clothing, right? With three compartments. But I also wanted to make something special, a bigger compartment plus three, so combo. Now, they say, come back tomorrow because the owner is not here. Now, you are literally saying to me, I must walk away, right? And I'm like, you know what? Just can you at least call them? Because all I need is a quotation. They call the owner. The owner is not picking up the phone. Eventually, the owner picks up the phone and he says, no, tell them to come tomorrow. And I ask, what time tomorrow? Nah, that he must check in the morning. What time? Because I'm that type of a person. And then I walked out thinking, you know what? I mean, I can't be spending my money with these people because there might be problems here. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's just that, where people don't take you seriously as a potential client, where the business principles are not solid in terms of giving you confidence and all of that. To what extent are those issues also a barrier to a very large extent, particularly for black business?
So what we have done as Prodly SA with all our platforms is we've provided a reviews mechanism. So on the market access platform, which is the B2B non-transactional platform, as a business, when you transact with any of our companies, you then give a rating. There's about 10 things that you rate them on. They deliver on time. Was the quality right? Was the pricing competitive? And all of those things that will enable the next corporate who wants to do business with them to be able to make an informed decision as to whether to trust them or not. And it comes from what you've just mentioned, and I touched on it earlier, that trust deficit that is quite clear out there. And also, we're trying to do away with this thing of generational, businesses, where the corporate buys from a certain business, even when the original entrepreneur passes on and the business passes on to their kids, the kids will keep getting the business and the grandkids. And so as a new entrant, as a black player, you're not able to come in because of that trust element. And so what we are doing is we're saying we represent a cohort of new entrants that we want you to give a chance to, and this is how they're rated. Even on our online store, consumers are able to rate. I was told, because I'm not too big on online shopping, that people who buy on online stores, Tabiso, is the other gender mostly. And so my
Absolutely.
wife tells me that
With me, it's my
they
wife
look
and
at
daughter.
reviews. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
the same. They look at reviews. So before they buy a product, if they don't trust the product, they look at reviews from those who have bought it before. And so we are big on giving reviews or on getting customers who buy from our guys to give reviews so that, the next person knows what to rely on to deal with those kind of challenges.
Reflecting back on the 10 years, what would you describe as moments that made you proud?
Lots. I'll tell you that when we were able to finally launch our online store, I think that for me was a crowning moment because we had been working towards it for a long time. When we got to this point where the DTIC agreed to say, despite the fact that our mandate is domestic, they're going to help us for export purposes because some of our guys want to grow from being SMMEs to being industrialists, and then how they will then sustain that industrial status is by exporting. And it's about alternative markets for some of our guys who, as a result of tariffs and geopolitical and geoeconomic issues, have to find alternative markets for their products. So for me, it's important that we as a company that they've trusted with their businesses are able to help them with those kind of challenges. When we delivered our first set of commitments, in 2018, when President Ramaphosa hosted his presidential job summit, there were no tangibles. When you go to the investment conference, it's clear. Companies come and say, this is how much we'll invest, this is what we are planning to do, on the back of that investment, this is how many jobs will be created, etc. But the Job Summit did not have that kind of a commitment. And we, as Prodly SA took a lead. And we went to companies that we work with and we said, can you give commitments to say, this is what we are spending money on, but we're going to now start ring fencing a portion of that money. We're going to identify items that we're going to buy locally, and this is the contribution we're going to make to the economy. And that is a 3 to 4 billion rands worth of commitments that we've been able to secure. I mean, the banks, the first 2 commitments I got, TK, were from banks. Standard Bank and Absa came to the party. I can tell you to date, Absa has bought all of their furniture since then to date locally, whether it's for a branch, whether it's for an office. And Standard Bank has done the same. I mean, there are many success stories. We've got the National Hospitals Network, which represents a lot of the privately owned healthcare facilities to make that kind of commitments. And we have corporates and we have industry bodies. For me, that remains a game-changing thing. We have been able to develop friendships with the clothing and textile industry on the back of the master plan that the country has. And we've been able to see increases of local content levels in the retail shops. Go to TFG, go to Mr. Price, go to Woolworths, go to Truworths and Cape Union Mart, and all of these guys who are signatories to the clothing master plan. It is retail-led because the retailer said, we will shift our orders from going to East Asia and we'll bring them back to South Africa. That for me remains a huge success. When we saw industrial users of sugar, like Coca-Cola Beverages South Africa, saying we will increase our levels of sugar that is bought in South Africa to a certain level because they would import previously. And we are now going to prioritize buying locally. So there's been lots of successes in the last 10 years. And they're not all mine or the team that I work with, but some of it comes from the social partners that we work with at NEDLAC, whether it's business or it's government or organized labor has been instrumental, as well as civil society. They've been instrumental in ensuring that we see real impact. People might not see our messages every day, TK, but on the ground, the entrepreneurs who are the ones that we service are the ones who benefit. I mean, if a bank says we're going to buy furniture locally, and they ask us who, the base of companies that we give them predominantly are SMMEs who would otherwise have struggled to access a supply chain person in a bank.
Let me flip the coin. And disappointments based on how you wish, businesses could behave in a different manner in order to take advantage of the opportunities.
Look, there's been lots of disappointments. I'll tell you, I'm going through some of it now. Sometimes I feel like the value of what we are bringing to the table is not appreciated enough by the private sector to give us more commitments. It's not appreciated enough by the private sector to invest more in Prodly SA. We're not saying give us money for free. I mean, there's all of this enterprise and supply development money in the country. And we're saying we're an access to market partner for the private sector. We present a base of companies that you can trust to be suppliers. But also, a lot of these guys run enterprise development programs. And in some of those instances, they are the only customer that entity has. At the end of that enterprise supply development program, the sustainability of those companies becomes questionable. We've seen a lot of companies go through those programs, and afterwards, because we are not able to help them quick enough as Prodly SA, or because they get to us too late, then you hear stories of companies that have closed down. That has been the real disappointment for me. It's where locally made products have lost shelf space on retail shelves. It's where we have seen illicit products come into the country and take away job opportunities. One of the companies that used to affiliate with us is BAT. We know the story is well documented. Companies like Make Steel in the steel industry and ArcelorMittal are companies that work with us. We know the story. So where imports companies that affiliate with us, and we see the number of jobs that are affected. PPC in the cement industry, the cement that comes in from countries like Pakistan, It's ridiculous in terms of pricing. The poultry industry is another one where we are importing tonnage and tonnages of poultry products that are available in the country. And that takes away the opportunity for local players to continue to retain jobs and create new job opportunities. So where I've been told that there's an email in my inbox and 100 jobs have been lost, 200 jobs, 50, even where a company says, I've lost 10 jobs. For me, it's 10 families, and we know the extent to which that goes.
And to what extent are you engaging, the necessary stakeholders in order to stave off what you've just mentioned? Because somebody was saying to me the other day, the same way that you have BAT leaving the country because of illicit cigarettes is the same way that big companies like Coca-Cola and other companies that make produce snacks are going to leave, because if you go to different spaza shops which are run by Pakistanis, you see brands that you don't know or who they are, where they come from, and all of that. And once they entrench themselves in those markets, in the townships, in the rural areas, then you are taking away the value of established brands like Coca-Cola and others.
And that is very true, and that's why one of the things we're working on as part of Selfcare is how to penetrate the informal sector for benefit of those products, because a lot of those things happen in the informal sector. We're doing a lot of work engaging independent wholesalers to make sure that they then become the ones who stock up on locally made products. And the Spaza Shop program that we're working on, together with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, as well as private sector players who have approached us, where the technology has been developed, we are ready to roll it out. In fact, we found about 100 Spaza shops that we're going to pilot in the next couple of months. The NEF is available. They've made themselves available through the GTIC to help scale those SMMEs who will supply those products into those Spaza shops. Because if you're a small player and you were used to supplying one or two Spaza shops, and now we're saying here's 100, 200, 300, you need money to scale for manufacturing purposes. So that is going to help.
Yeah. Because black business with potential, some of them have died as a result of that. I mean, I remember Lokshin Culture. There was a brand called Keep Keep. And I think it's also happening with other established brands right now. So you come in as a black player, you introduce a brand like that, and then there are fake products all over the pavements in various cities with ridiculous prices, and they just disappear out of the market. So that's an issue, isn't it?
That is a real problem. We have a program that we rolled out. I mean, what I'm wearing is Chepa. And in fact, and underneath I'm wearing Magents. So I wear local TK. So those products, we support these designers. We work with them. We have a program that is called Local Fashion Police. Every year we identify 5 or 6 that we work with, and then they graduate, they become part of the alumni, and then we onboard the next batch. And we've seen that it helps them in terms of awareness, in terms of ensuring that, despite the fact that there's all of these counterfeits, that South Africans support them. I mean, it's in the form of a competition, Jovicho, where South Africans take photos of themselves wearing those brands, post them, and the winners win up to 50,000 rands, and it's funded by the private sector. The other year we had FNB as a partner. Last year we had African Bank as a partner. So the private sector, there are instances like that where they see the value of helping save an industry that is labor intensive and has the capacity to employ, especially the unskilled in the township. I mean, if you're a fashion designer in the township and you get seamstresses in your street to work with you, you are helping save livelihoods. And that is what that program is about. We are growing that list of fashion designers, both established and unknown fashion designers, not only by putting them on a path where they are then supported by consumers who are exposed to them, but also for business to business purposes. I mean, Chepa, which I'm wearing now, are now they've now established a corporate line, and we have been a part of their journey. They can vouch for some of the things we've done for them, and now they're supplying corporates, and it's not just reliance on consumers. So we know that counterfeits are there. There's a protest that we're having on the 16th of March. We had one last year on the 17th of March. And the intention is to give a memorandum. Last year, we gave a memorandum to retailers to say, why are you continuing to not pay attention to where the products that you're buying are coming from, in terms of instances where we have found counterfeit products on their shelves? We gave a memorandum to representatives of the malls. So this year, the memorandum is going to NEDLEC itself. So we're saying to NEDLEC, all the social partners that are responsible for helping us deal with the scourge of illicit, counterfeit, and in fact, let me put it this way: anything that can be classified as an illegal or unfair trade practice is what we are marching against. So we have about 7 different industries represented there, from steel, cement, clothing and textile, sugar. People are affected by all of these things. Pharmaceuticals. It's interesting how much pharmaceuticals are illicit in this country by nature. And so we will again have a protest on the 16th of March with organized labor as well as corporates. The CEOs of some of these companies will march with and protest with us, and we'll give a memorandum to just create awareness around the fact that as consumers, we also have a responsibility to not buy these things because we're the ones who are mostly affected.
My brother, thank you so much. It's been such a worthwhile conversation, and I hope it will reach as far wider as possible in the country. And I hope that entrepreneurs who are watching us as we were talking will also take advantage of Proudly South Africa. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. As a parting shot, if you don't mind, people can go to all our social media pages on all the social media platforms. Look for Proudly South African. Go to our website, www.proudlysa.co.za, to register, to see what activities we're undertaking and to become part of this journey. It's a movement. The buy local movement needs all of us to be activists in it so that we can help this make this country better. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Chovicho.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. We really appreciate it.